Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to the Sovelmash LLC channel for Expert Time. We'll discuss the latest project events and answer your questions.
Good afternoon, dear investors, project participants, and partners. Good afternoon to everyone. Architectural urban planning. So we continue to work closely and persistently with the architecture department, specifically with the organization known as Mosgor Architecture. They send us comments, we receive them, and then we upload our responses back. It's a kind of back and forth process. Basically, something very similar actually happened when we were registering the ownership rights for the unfinished construction project. There were also comments there, a lot of different things, but it was clear that for some fields that needed to be filled out, there wasn't a clear understanding of what exactly should be entered. For example, with the cadastral number, it turned out you had to enter zeros if it was missing. Who would have known that? And so on. But nevertheless, we got it done, registered the property rights, and we'll achieve our goal here as well. So, the latest comments have been addressed. The application has been uploaded and accepted for review, and now we're waiting for the result. For the past 2 weeks, we've been working on setting up and fine-tuning the equipment. Technicians have been coming in. One of the technicians was from China. He left yesterday. He worked on the stamping and setup. Thanks to his work together with our team, we can now show you the product. This is the stator stack, and this is the rotor stack. This is how they come out of the stamping press. Thanks to this work, our employees have gained tremendous experience. And it should be noted that when the technician arrived, they got the stamping press up and running just a few hours into the very first day. They worked at different speeds. The work was very satisfying. And most importantly, these are already production samples. This is the first equipment that was intended for mass production. And look, no matter what anyone says, these are the cores. Whether it's in our motors or in BLDC motors, you can't do without them. And honestly, talking about serious mass production of motors without this kind of stamping equipment, well, that's just not realistic. Right now, we also have another specialist on site working on setting up the die casting machine. They're fine-tuning the pressure casting process. Yesterday, the first castings were made. We can show what it looks like when it comes out of the machine. This is die casting. This little piece sticking out here is called the press residue, or leftover. And they've managed to gradually reduce it from this size down to this size. Ahmed adjusted the melt volume in the ladle. These are the parts. This is the housing for the angle grinder gearbox. These are the risers, and here they've broken off. But what is it for? When the molten metal flows from here through the runners and fills the mold, all the debris and everything else goes here, so that you get a high-quality casting. These castings were initially made without pressure. Later, they were made with pressure. At the same time, we managed to prepare well for this work, with great care. A fairly large amount of work was done there. Even the molds were made, everything necessary, including the parting compounds, the composition for the release lubricant, and the lubricant for the plunger pairs that press the molten metal. All of this was purchased. So basically, that's something we can all congratulate ourselves on. This is also now in serial production. For now, we've been casting with an electrotechnical alloy, because at the same time we're making castings in a chill mold. not with a die casting machine, but in a chill mold. I'll show you what we're casting right now. Here's this light little thing, a sprocket. This is nothing other than the rotor of the new version. These are motors for the Modilek, with a stack not of 35, but 50 millimeters. You can see the whole setup here, the sprue, and here we're casting these parts in a chill mold, for now by hand. You saw in chat number 1 that information was posted about the tooling being made to cast the frame with the bushing. The next tooling is for the frame bushing and the stack, so that it can be done. The first option lets us make changes to both 35 and 50 versions. The second option is to cast the stator stack together with the frame right away as a single, finished monolithic part that will be manufactured industrially with minimal costs, such as in a mass production process. By the way, here is the stack, the stator stack plates. Well, here the customer mistakenly assembled it using rivets, which shouldn't have been done. Those rivets, the pins, were removed. Sometimes you can still see traces of them here. They show up under the light. Here are the dies for making the parts for both the rotor and the stator segments. They arrived at the site today. That's nice. The long-awaited event that we have all been waiting for has finally happened. The controllers, which are essential for our ongoing work, have arrived, so in the near future, we will be able to continue with the process of testing the new version of the Modilek. We can confidently push them to the limit again. I hope they hold up, and most importantly, we now have the opportunity to restore the BTR's configuration, the one we had disassembled. Back then, we took out the controllers and motors for other projects, but now we can restore the BTR. We have the batteries for that, we have the motors, and now we have the controllers too. And as much as the weather and the course of events allow. Because the BTR is important, but the main priority is setting up mass production. And now, as we mentioned before, the time has come, it's May, when, according to our schedule, we were supposed to start mass production. Yes, we've already breathed life into some of the mass production processes. We've started them, but we won't be launching the full production cycle just yet. But nevertheless, let's say, 1,000 sets of parts for assembly are already in the warehouse, except for what? The motors and controllers. So basically, when it comes to the motors, we have those parts made. The parts are ready. That's an important point. Right now, specialized machines are being made for winding the coils here, and equipment is also being carefully prepared for casting the squirrel cage here, which will be arriving very soon. But all of this work can already be done on cores that are not laser cut, but made using industrial methods. We can check all these characteristics to make sure there are no surprises. Yes, we're confident, but before launching such a large batch, everything needs to be thoroughly checked again. While doing this work, we're also keeping track of the labor costs. We calculate the time it takes to manufacture, the amount of material used, equipment depreciation, maintenance, absolutely everything. We figure out the actual cost of this part and of that part, because this part involves one operation, assembly. The second operation is installing the slot insulation. The third is winding the coils. Then comes pulling in, then forming the end windings, then soldering, securing the lead ends of the conductors, then impregnation, drying, and so on. Once we've calculated everything, we won't just give a rough estimate. We'll be able to say exactly and specifically what the cost price of this stator is and what the cost price of this rotor is. In chat number 1, we posted photos of shaft blanks that were made not just by turning, but by upsetting on an upsetting machine, upsetting. Upsetting allows you to do the following. You load the rod, it automatically cuts the blank, then it is forged, and you get a shaft blank, and then there's just one more step left to do. Drill a hole, cut threads for the locking nut, and machine the bearing seats, as well as the seat for the rotor, carefully. This is much cheaper, much faster, and simpler than machining the shaft from scratch. Here is the machine. The acceptance was done in China, and the dimensions match. It will be shipped soon. In fact, it should have already been shipped to us. In the meantime, we'll have to keep machining the shafts. There's no way around it until it arrives. Also, for working with the shafts, a robotic manipulator will be installed on the machine. It will load the blanks and then remove them, taking the blanks from the feeder and placing the finished parts into a container. I also just want to take a moment to really point out, just to be clear, that we cast this part ourselves, as well as other similar parts. This became possible because we set up a machining section right here at our facility. It's equipped with a wide variety of different types of machines that allow us to manufacture tooling for these kinds of processes. Couldn't dream this. If we had outsourced all of this, it would have taken years. Because just imagine you're working and you get an order. Well, you'll only get to it when you have the time, right? So every single item ends up taking a lot of money and a lot of time. And I want to deeply and sincerely thank all the investors who truly believed in US, who believed in the project. Despite all the rumors, setbacks, and gossip, they continue to fund the project. Because it's thanks to you that this became possible. Originally, the plan was to fund this with the first profits we'd earned from a slightly different line of work, from developing the project and taking on outside commercial orders. But it became possible because of you. Thank you so much. Without your support, it would have been impossible. But with every new round of funding that comes in from a variety of sources and investors, the commercial appeal of the project keeps continually growing, and people's attitudes toward it are changing significantly. I also want to mention another event. Finally, after a very long wait, we received 2 opposed 2-stroke engines. These are small, compact engines, opposed type, with horizontally arranged cylinders designed for efficiency. With their help, we'll be able to make the Modilec model rechargeable so it can be used repeatedly without having to replace the battery. This is possible because the engine will be equipped with a generator, which will recharge the battery during use. What does this mean? First, Modilec won't have to stay in the air all the time. It can land somewhere as needed, recharge, and then continue its flight. This increases the flight range, the time it can stay in the air, and the range of tasks it will be able to perform. Of course, you don't have to equip it this way. There are different options, but still, now it's possible. And this version of a hybrid, not a direct one of course, but with recharging capability. This version is very interesting. I hope there will be demand for it. Questions?
Is there a chance that dividends will be paid in the spring of 2026 for the year 2025? Or is it already clear that, at best, the first dividends can be expected in 2027?
You see, the thing is, I'm not sure that for 2025, considering what's happening now with the permits for commissioning and putting things into operation. First, we need permission or confirmation of completion, then official conclusion, then about a month to process the commissioning permit. That means March, April is when this process ends. We received the conclusion in May. So it's June for us, which means commissioning and getting the permit. Half a year? No, we can't turn things around in half a year. The thing is, we'll mostly be setting up production, and that's quite a costly period. Yes, we'll make some profit, but it's not going to be significant yet. As for getting to market, right now the whole team and I are rushing to complete the work that will allow us to get the product to dealers and release the first batch of angle grinders as soon as possible. But the initial launch volume will be 1,000 units. Yes, I definitely hope that. By that time, we'll already be making all our own parts, but we'll still have to buy some components from China.
Please provide information about becoming a dealer. There's a lot we don't understand, but we're really interested. There's a group on Telegram, but there's no information there. I'm from Vladivostok, and I'd really like to get things going here, and actually throughout the Far East.
I understand your question, and you're not alone. Many are asking. Terms and procedures for working with dealers are being developed. Because, well, here's one of the questions. Can an individual entrepreneur do this or not? This question was asked by Maria Zuja. As an individual entrepreneur, she can't trade directly, so she must do something, and every entrepreneur must do something. So, we'll need to supply them with the products, basically in the form of some kind of kit. But then, whoever assembles this kit has to be responsible for how it was put together. So, we need to make absolutely sure that the operations involved can in no way, under any circumstances, affect the main consumer characteristics. The second point is that there are people who want to become dealers, but they can't purchase a batch that's economically reasonable and justified for their needs, because buying just 1 or 2 units at a time is simply too expensive for them to afford. This high cost makes it difficult for aspiring dealers to enter the market. We need to find a solution for this. We're addressing your questions. You ask, we work through them and figure out how to make it happen. Every single question forms the essential basis for carefully developing and building our relationships with dealers, as well as shaping and defining the specific terms of dealership. We really want to take everyone's interests into account as much as possible, within reason. And believe me, the questions being asked are very reasonable. They're very reasonable, especially from the seller's perspective, because we might come up with our own ideas of how things should look. But your opinion is more valuable because it comes directly from assessing the situation. We see things from one perspective, while potential dealers see it from a completely different one. Their opinion counts.
The questions are repeating at this point. And here's a comment. Let's wrap things up. Have a great May holiday.
Happy upcoming holidays to everyone. Have a great time. See you soon. Take care. Goodbye.